Alabama's quarterback board is starting to take shape. Kalen DeBoer and his staff have their sights set on a couple major flip targets. I got Andrew Bone from Bama Online in this video. We're going to talk about the recent contact between Bama and elite quarterbacks Deuce Knight and Julian Lewis, both of whom are committed to other programs, so this is going to get fun. But first, Bama fans, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We are just getting started this offseason, and we need you to be a part of it. So go ahead, hit subscribe for me, please. Let's bring on Andrew Bone of Bama Online. And Andrew, we've been talking a lot about Deuce Knight this week on this channel, and you wrote an insider piece yesterday that caught my interest. So it seems like Deuce Knight is emerging as a top priority at QB for Alabama.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Deuce Knight was one of the very first kids that Coach Kalen DeBoer went and saw when he hit the recruiting trail. I think it was the very first day he hit the recruiting trail. We saw some photos from George County High School. And this is a relationship that has gone for a long time. Coach DeBoer coached his brother at Indiana for a year when he was the offensive coordinator. They've known each other since, I think, Deuce was in the 7th or 8th grade. The relationship goes back that far. And talking to Deuce the other day, Joseph Hastings of Bama Online spoke with Deuce at the UA Next camp in Atlanta, and he said that he talks to Coach DeBoer every other day. And he's still solid with his commitment to Notre Dame. We're not saying that he's on flip watch or any of that just yet, but there is interest, and I don't think he would be speaking to Coach DeBoer on an almost an everyday basis if there was not interest. He also mentioned speaking to Nick Sheridan, the new Alabama offensive coordinator. So some interest there. Can Alabama get him on campus for a visit this spring, this summer? That's kind of the next step. It doesn't have any plans just yet. It does plan on getting back to Notre Dame, and obviously Notre Dame is going to do everything they can to make sure that he's happy and make sure that he sticks on board. But he's certainly a top target for Alabama. We haven't seen a lot of quarterback offers extended by this new staff just yet, and I think a lot of that just has to do with they have the guys that they really right now, whether that's Juju Lewis. These are guys that are committed elsewhere, but they have indicated that they will take visits. They are going to return to campus, and they are talking to this staff. So I don't think Alabama wants to really accept quarterback offers to players that might be below those guys right now until they know for sure that those guys are locked in with their schools. They're not going to take any more visits, and they shut things completely down.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that there are only a total of 3 offers out there, and that just leads me to my next question. What's the level of contact between the other two, Juju Lewis and George McIntyre? Juju Lewis committed to USC. George McIntyre more recently committed to Tennessee.
Yeah, so these are the 3 offers that we know about. There could be some more offers that are out there. Bryce Underwood, number 1 quarterback in the country, could potentially have an offer, but he hasn't announced anything, hasn't said that Alabama's offered him. But these are the 3 offers that we're aware of. And George McIntyre received an offer about a week before he announced his commitment to Tennessee. So I think that offer may have been a little bit, hey, we know he's about to make a decision here. We need to get that offer out there, let him know that he has an offer from this new coaching staff. But I think he's pretty locked in with his commitment to Tennessee. Now, Juju Lewis, the interesting thing about him and Deuce Knight is both of those guys had offers from Coach DeBoer when they were at Washington. So they had been evaluated. They had been in contact. They know that coaching staff, and that coaching staff, at least from an evaluation standpoint, knows these guys. So I think – as we kind of get into the spring, coaches go out on the road, they're going to start seeing more guys. They're going to start evaluating, and we could potentially see some more offers that get extended. But as far as Deuce Knight, Juju Lewis, those guys at least have some interest. They're talking to the coaching staff. Juju, the other day at the UA Next camp, said that he had already been in contact with Nick Sheridan, the new OC. Is planning on getting to Tuscaloosa this spring. I think he's about to release the dates of his spring visits. It hasn't been released yet, but I think that's coming out. He said I would expect Alabama to be on that list. He was trying to get to Tuscaloosa right before the dead period hit. Wasn't able to make it. Probably a good thing because Ryan Grubb was still the offensive coordinator at the time at Alabama, and Ryan Grubb actually visited Juju twice during the contact period in January, and the relationship started to build a little bit. But now he's forming that relationship with Coach DeBoer and with Coach Sheridan. So we'll see if he ends up making a trip to Tuscaloosa, which I said we expect him to do that. But how much is he willing to listen, and then we'll kind of see where things stand with him as the summer gets going.
Now, one of the other major storylines this offseason has been the assistant coaching carousel that seems like it'll never stop spinning. But this week, it seems like Alabama has finalized their coaching staff. So how do you view this staff from a recruiting perspective?
I think Alabama fans should be excited about this staff. A lot of energy. You look at the staff overall. It's a lot of young talent. A lot of young coaches that are energetic, that get out there, develop a lot of good relationships. Christian Robinson, this week probably has the most connections in the Southeast, being a Georgia native, coaching at Florida, coaching at Auburn. Obviously, coaching in the Southeast is a big benefit. So I think that's going to help. But the biggest thing with Alabama right now is getting a lot of these kids on campus for spring visits, because a lot of them don't know these coaches. A lot of coaches were on the West Coast, so you're starting to build these relationships. You look at somebody like Ryan Williams, who decommitted from Alabama the day that Nick Saban retired. 2 weeks later, he was back on board with Alabama after meeting with Coach DeBoer, and just really building a strong connection and relationship there. And that's what these coaches want. They want to get kids on campus. They want to start building these relationships. They want to get to know these guys. And I think for the most part, Alabama did a pretty good job of stopping the bleeding as far as the transfer portal, and they were able to keep a lot of kids on campus, especially in that 2024 class. Alabama signed the number 2 overall recruiting class in the country. Only 2 of those players ended up leaving and transferring after meeting with the entire staff, because there's a lot of belief in those guys. So I think the more you get kids on campus, the better the relationships are going to continue to grow. But I will say, I think they're behind a little bit, but it's easy to catch up when you have 10 months to work.
Yeah, that's true. And one thing that Nick Saban was always able to do was go into the state of Georgia and pull arguably the number 1 player in that state on a given year. So, Andrew, the last thing I want to know is Alabama going to be able to go into the state of Georgia this year and then land an elite defensive lineman? Mainly, I'm talking Elijah Griffin, the number 1 defensive lineman in America out of Savannah, Georgia. We know that Kalen DeBoer made a point to go see him last month. So what's the status with Elijah Griffin in Alabama?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Elijah is trying to get him on campus. I don't think Alabama is in that top group right now, but if they can get him on campus, spend time with the coaching staff. Defensive line coach is still the same. It's still Freddie Rhodes. So that relationship has been ongoing, for the last year or so. So if they can get him on campus, they're going to have a chance. Alabama spent a lot of time in Georgia in the month of January, because they know how important that state is. You kind of look back to Nick Saban when he first took over at Alabama. First state that he hit was Louisiana, because he knew how rich of a talent state that is, and they were able to have so much success through the years recruiting in Louisiana. Even though LSU was the main program, they were still able to get the top guys in Louisiana to go to Alabama. So Coach DeBoer, his staff, there's a lot of connections with this staff, even on the support staff in the Peach State. So they're going to be recruiting that state pretty hard. Defensive linemen certainly at a premium in Georgia, and Elijah Griffin, certainly a top priority for a lot of schools. But so is Justice Terry, who's a 5-star defensive lineman out of Manchester. He's a guy that has came out and said that Alabama is in his top 2. Still very interested, plans on visiting Tuscaloosa this spring, and continues to have strong relationships at Alabama. Christian Garrett, who goes to high school just outside of Athens, has Alabama in his top 7. I would say Alabama probably on the outside group for Christian right now, but anytime you can get these kids on campus during the spring, it's going to be very important, because then you can get them back for an official visit during the summer and go from there.
Yeah, and it seems like, hey, just because Nick Saban's gone doesn't mean Alabama won't still have a strong presence in the state of Georgia. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with these top prospects. But that would be a huge statement if Kalen DeBoer can go land one or two of those guys that you just mentioned. We'll see how it all plays out. Visits are key. Andrew Bone with Bama Online. We'll be talking to you all offseason. Thanks for dropping by the Inside Scoop today.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed that, go check out the hundreds of videos that we have on this channel, and also do me a favor, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel.